Hello, everybody. I'm Sean Reynolds from Sportsnet, about to be joined by Ken Weeb from the Winnipeg Free Press. Together, we are Kenny and Renny. This is the Kenny and Renny post-game show after Game 2 of the Stanley Cup playoffs, first-round series between the Winnipeg Jets and the Colorado Avalanche. Loss for the Winnipeg Jets. First time the Jets have lost in 9 games. So maybe that's... well, we got Louis Batista here, who always writes Believe. He's been writing for it for a while. Paid off last time, so keep going with that, Louis Batista. LP, taking the opposite side of this. Pain says, we will adjust, no worries. I want to start this out, and I want to say, to me, the path that I talked about and the reason I believe that this series would only go 5 games is what I'd guessed, still remains. The blueprint is still there. And people like Blue Steel Kenny showing we weren't going to win 16 straight, fellas. And I don't think anyone suggested that was going to be the case. No doubt Blue Steel Kenny is absolutely right about that. One thing, though, you have to take a look at here. So I'm going to get to why I still believe the Winnipeg Jets are going to have success in this series and why there is a reason for you to do exactly what Louis Batista is saying here and believe. But before I get to that, I'm going to get to the nitty-gritty and the facts of this series. Outside of a historically terrible performance by Alexander Georgiev, the 5th worst, if you'll believe the fancy stats, the 5th worst goaltending performance in the league this year. The Winnipeg Jets win 7-6 in that first game. Probably not something you can expect. I know we know Alexander Georgiev has struggled, and I know we know he's been a problem, and I think the expectation is to consider that he is probably still going to remain a problem going forward, but you can't expect him to continue having the 5th worst performance of the entire season, game after game after game, and gutting out a 7-6 victory. And that's what we saw tonight. Alexander Georgiev, the first goal of the game, I thought gave a massive opportunity to the Winnipeg Jets. It's a bad goal. It's terrible positioning by him. It's him overreacting. It's him falling down and taking himself out of the play and offering the Winnipeg Jets a wide open net that David Gustafsson cashes in on. And boom, the Winnipeg Jets are up 1-0 in front of a building that's going nuts, and everything is going the Winnipeg Jets way, everything going against the Colorado Avalanche, and a team that I don't know in that moment how they find confidence in their goaltender, who gifted the Winnipeg Jets a goal to start that game. We know what happened after that. I think there has to be a consideration. I think if you're going to take a look at this honestly, and we all should, Louis Batista says the Avs deserved to win. They were the hungrier team. The Avs probably deserved to win game 1 as well. And that now becomes the concern, because in game 1, the Winnipeg Jets out-aved the Colorado Avalanche, a game that was supposed to be fully in the corner of a team like the Colorado Avalanche, a highly offensive team. The Winnipeg Jets end up winning that, but they win it on the strength of a terrible performance by a goaltender. They didn't get that tonight. Alexander Georgiev was able to steady himself after that first goal. The Winnipeg Jets don't have that opportunity again to capitalize on a goaltender who's letting pretty much everything in. And this is the way it turns out in this situation. You have to look at this series and say, if you take a look at the execution by the Colorado Avalanche, if you take a look at the puck possession numbers by the Colorado Avalanche, the way they've pushed the play, the Colorado Avalanche have clearly been the better team in this series. It's 1-1 going to Colorado. And as a Jets fan, and if you're the Winnipeg Jets as a team, you should probably be extremely happy and maybe feel somewhat, if not very fortunate, that that's the case, that you are not going down in an 0-2 hole back to Colorado, where the Colorado Avalanche have the best home record of any team in the entire NHL. Now, I talked about Alexander Georgiev. The Colorado Avalanche needed a bounce back game from him. They get it. I think they get it because there's a point in that game where the Winnipeg Jets start taking shots and they start floating a lot from distance. Sound familiar? That's the Winnipeg Jets at their best. And we talked about it during this season. When the Jets are forcing other teams to float shots in from distance, all it serves to do, in my opinion, is to build up the confidence of the opposition goaltender. Alexander Georgiev got into a rhythm because the Winnipeg Jets were reduced to, or didn't fight to, the front of the net. So they were reduced to floating the puck in from distance. And there were a lot of those pucks that Alexander Georgiev handled like that. And I thought got his feet under, having a pretty darn good performance afterwards because of it. I think that's one thing the Winnipeg Jets failed at tonight, was just trying to make his life more difficult. Rick Bowness talked about them not shooting the puck enough. I'm going to get to that. We need to talk about that because to me, that's a condition of what we saw from this team and have seen at some of its low times, but more shots by the head coach. I need to come back to that. But let's talk about goaltending in this situation here, because we talked about Connor Hellybuck, and everyone every year, and I address this on the shows, I do it all the time. Everyone just matter-of-factly says the Winnipeg Jets have the advantage going into every playoff series when they've got their goaltending. Well, Connor Hellybuck has now been allowed 11 goals in this series in 2 games. Alexander Georgiev, who had one of the worst performances in a game by a goaltender that we've seen this year, has now allowed 9 goals in this series. Connor Hellybuck didn't help himself in this game by giving the puck away. Now, let me be clear. I think that's going to happen. The timing of this couldn't be worse. Maybe we should expect the timing of it, because in the playoffs, the pressure level just goes up. And he was pressured, turned over the puck, ends up in the back of the net, didn't help himself. I want to remind everybody out there that Connor Hellybuck, who started out in 2018 and everyone worried about him handling the puck, has turned into a supreme puck handling goaltender because he didn't shy away and wasn't afraid to continue making mistakes. So don't expect it to change going forward. Connor Hellybuck will still get out of his net. He'll still be passing it to his players. The Winnipeg Jets have been extremely successful this year because of it. So don't expect that to change, but it goes against him on this night. And I guess I just have to say this, because I've heard so much about this, and I've heard this talk about, Connor Hellybuck, the last game outshot 7-6. We sat there and everyone talked about how terrible Alexander Georgiev was. And everyone talked about Connor Hellybuck making one more save than the other guy, making the saves at the right time, all those kind of things. Going sub 900 in 2 games. And I'd heard the same thing at the beginning of this game in the press box. Everyone was saying, well, about how great he'd been in the game, though, and all these things. At some point, it starts sounding like excuses. When your numbers are 5.5 goals against in the first 2 games of a series, and when you're sub 900 in 2 games of a series, if you're going to keep trying to say, yeah, but he made these saves and he made those saves, you're making allowances that most other goaltenders would not get. Those sound like excuses. Connor Hellybuck needs to be better for the Winnipeg Jets. He needs to come out and have the kind of performance in this series that quiets and creates doubt, or plants a seed of doubt into the high-scoring Colorado Avalanche and the players on that team that clearly seem to feel like they can't be stopped offensively. The Winnipeg Jets are going to need that, or the series is going to get tough. I'm going to do this quickly. And if you think I'm talking to hear my own voice, well, that's only 50% of it. I've been waiting for Ken to get into the green room. He's arrived, so we can be there. We can go there right away. But I just want to say this. The pattern, the blueprint still exists. The Winnipeg Jets and the ability to kind of grind things down with Adam Lowry still should create a mismatch up and down the lineup. But it doesn't work if you don't capitalize on those mismatches. Mark Scheifele tonight capitalizes on a mismatch. Mark Scheifele driving the net against an older, slower player in Jack Johnson creates a mismatch, and he capitalizes on it. The third line I guess we should call them the second line, Tyler Toffoli, Nick Ehlers, Sean Monahan. I think they've played good defensively in this series, but they have not capitalized down the lineup offensively where you would expect them to. We've got fourth line goals in 2 games in this series by the Winnipeg Jets. They're doing their part, but at some point in trying to shut down the top stars of the Colorado Avalanche, who we talked about, you can limit them, but you're not going to keep them entirely on the scoreboard. You need Mark Scheifele's line to really hit when he's out on the ice against a guy like, O'Connor and Kivi Ranta. And you definitely need to hear from the third line in a manner that it doesn't end up in the back of your net like it did with the, I guess that's not the third line or the second line when the puck is turned over by Nikolai Ehlers here. But until you start hearing about the Monahan line checking into this series offensively, and until you start seeing a situation where the Jets top line makes them pay for putting the fourth line of the opposition team out against them, gave an opportunity for exactly that with 4 minutes left in that game. That blueprint, you need to execute the blueprint. The blueprint exists. The Winnipeg Jets get to that blueprint. They should be able to out-depth the Colorado Avalanche and win this series. And in my opinion, win it handily. But if you don't execute the blueprint, if you're not showing up, it's not going to work no matter what you do. That's my take on the whole thing. Time to bring in the man with the best music in the business to get his take. Here comes Kenny, everybody. Kenny, looking like $1 million, my man. This is an old school fit by the boys at Vittorio Rossi. I wanted to save some of the new ones. You can't give it all. Hey, the whiteout's happening. You got to share a little bit of the love in Denver. So I'll debut some new Vittorio Rossi suits, which I love doing when we're down in Denver. And hey, if you want to debut some sweet, sweet clothing from the boys of Vittorio Rossi, you know what to do. Head on down to Vittorio Rossi on Corden Avenue. Walk in loudly, proclaim Kenny and Renny sent you. Ask for Frankie and the boys, and they will have you debuting looks like stars out there, ladies and gentlemen. Ken, what do you take away from this game?
Yeah, it wasn't good enough for the Jets. Pretty simple here. They had spurts where they were pretty good, Sean, but overall, I didn't see their structure in place as much. No, they didn't give up as much, and yes, they generated a little bit more according to the score sheet. But I just think that they kind of were loose again at times, and I didn't think that they had opportunities. Now again, game of inches. Hey, Kyle Connor with a great chance rings it off the post. They go back the other way, and it's 4-2 in this snap of a finger. But sorry, that was earlier. Sorry, that was earlier on, right?
Yeah. No. Kyle Connor hits it, and then
that was before Lehkonen.
Way. That was before Lehkonen. But I don't know. To me, there were 2 posts on either side, so I have a hard time playing the old.
No, I'm just saying that would have made it a 2-goal game at the time, right? That would have made it a 2-goal game. But after that, I don't think there was much of a. I mean, there wasn't a ton of response offensively from the Jets after the game got to 4-2. So to me, again, I'm not. We were talking about this at lunch. I mean, I expected the Avalanche to find another level. I also expect the Jets to find another level still. But, to me, this was kind of, I picked the Jets, and so did you. I thought this was a much tighter series, and this was a great example of the value of resilience, which is what I wrote about, for my piece that I just posted. I mean, this is a championship team not folding. This is a championship team knowing that their goaltender had been shaky in game 1. He had been shaky down the stretch for them, and they needed to be better in front of them. They were better in front of them, but as Jared Bednar just pointed out, Sean, they weren't that much better. The person who was much better was Georgiev. So, I mean, you got to give the guy credit. He's been getting ripped in the, wherever. In this rink around the NHL, people were wondering if the guy even was going to be in the net. they were wondering if they were considering a number 3 guy instead of him, the guy who started 62 games and had 63 appearances. I mean, he quieted his critics for one night. He's going to have to do it more than one night. But he was the best goalie on the ice. And Sean, I know you were talking about Hellybuck. Connor wasn't good enough today. I'm not hanging this on Connor Hellybuck by any stretch of the imagination, but the facts are the Colorado Avalanche have scored 10 goals. Yes.
11.
On him, though. One empty
Oh,
netter,
sorry.
6
Yeah,
and 4.
yeah,
so he's allowed 10 goals. That's too many. I understand that they're a high octane team. There's lots of people who need to be better in the series, and Connor Hellybuck is one of them. He is supposed to be the differentiator in this series, Sean, where the other team is the highest scoring team in the league. He's the Vezina Trophy front runner and will win the award. I'm still, I believe that. But in game 1, he was the better goalie. In game 2, he was the second best goalie on the ice. And again, I'm not pinning this on him by any stretch of the imagination, but Connor Hellybuck cannot be allowing 4 or 5 goals a night for the Jets to win this series. They might find a way to do it, but that's an awfully tough recipe to go beyond one round, let alone win a round. So again, this is not a goalie controversy. This is not a call for Laurent Brossoit.
This will never happen.
Connor Hellybuck needs to be better in this series if the Jets want to win it. He knows it. You know it. I know it. Rick Bowness knows it. His teammates know it. And Connor Hellybuck knows it. No matter what he says about liking his game, he's going to have to make a few more saves. He made plenty of saves in game 1. He didn't make one more than the other guy in game 2. And again, this is the crazy part, Sean. Connor Hellybuck looked dialed in today. First 15 shots, he turned aside pretty candidly, pretty easily. He was, squared up, not giving away much in terms of rebounds. And then all of a sudden, at a time where it looked like the Jets should have been taking all of the momentum on the tying goal by Mark Scheifele that you referenced, they completely kind of lost their offensive mojo, I think. So, hey, I expect this to be a long series, 6 or 7 games. So I'm not surprised. But what I do need to see, Sean, from the Winnipeg Jets is a little bit more diligence. They were better in game 2, but their puck support is not at the level it needs to be at in order to make life difficult on the Colorado Avalanche. And Sean, if you're the Winnipeg Jets, you nailed it. 2 fourth-line goals in 2 games, and they're only 1-1. Like that.
Yeah,
that's not good enough.
Should be the difference.
If I had told you that Nathan MacKinnon would only have 1 assist today, neither you nor I would have thought the Avalanche were going to even this series up. Wouldn't you agree? I mean, we both. I mean, you were in with MacKinnon. I was in with him after the first scrum broke up. He looked like he had an incredible determination, and he showed it on the ice. But it wasn't just a domination station for him. He made a critical play in the game, finding Josh Manson coming out of the box.
Yeah.
But this wasn't a 12, 13, 14 shot attempt game for MacKinnon. It was a 2 shot on goal, 4 shot attempt game, and I liked his game, but he wasn't the dominant force in the game that pushed them over the top. Even though he made a great play, he did his job. But to me, the bigger issue for the Jets is that Miles Wood, Ross Colton line came up with another big goal. Zach Parise was on the 4th line when he scored the goal. That was and again, people talking about Hellybuck's puck handling much better this year. There's no debate. I don't want to hear any Connor's the worst puck handling goalie in the league. That's nonsense. It's not true. He had his pocket picked by Yakov Trenin today. There's no doubt about that. But it's not, you don't say Hellybuck needs to stay in the net. No, he's been helpful with the movement of the puck all year long. That's an error, and it's not just his error. That there should have been closer support for him there, but he also needs to move it quicker. I mean, those are the facts. Outside of that, we'll get into it in a minute. That's probably good for the buffet. But again, I just don't think that the Jets I don't think they've brought their A+ game. And guess what?
No.
If you want to knock out the Colorado Avalanche, you're going to need your A or A+ game. And so far, they haven't shown it. Today, I would say it was an A game for Colorado, but the Jets haven't played an A+ game yet. So they're going to need to find that. It's early in the series, but that's the differentiator. The Avalanche knew that they couldn't fall behind. They would have said all the right things if they had fallen behind 2-0 also. But they look like a team that played with the urgency of a club that did not want to fall behind 2-0. And they were just a little bit better than the Jets today. They were they were more than a little bit better than the Jets today, and they took advantage of their opportunities. And someone just said the Avs took it over in the second period. They took over in the second half of the first period. Jets dominated to a degree in the first 8 to 10 minutes, and after that, it was all Avalanche. And if it weren't for Hellybuck, they would have been trailing after one period. That's a lot to dig into there.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna go to the second line.
Great place to start.
Before we do that, I just wanted to say, like, this is one of those. So the third period, it looks like a bit of a mismatch, right? Because the Jets had so many more shots. And I've talked about this in the past. If you want the Winnipeg Jets to come back on you, sit back. So the shot clock makes it look like the Colorado Avalanche sat back. They didn't. They really did kind of push the pace in the third period. It ended up in the Jets zone a number of times. What they didn't do is they didn't fire they understood they didn't need more goals. What they needed was more offensive zone time. So they became very protective of the puck and very protective of possession, and didn't give a chance to turn it over by firing the puck on the net. So I think anyone out there who looks at this and thinks that was the Jets period, that's not what I saw. So to your point, the second half of the game, I see the Colorado Avalanche, and like you said, in a good chunk of the second half of the first period, but the second half of the second, I see going to Colorado. Second half of the first. That third period, we talk so much about the Winnipeg Jets being the team that shuts teams down in the third period. This was a masterclass in shutting the Winnipeg Jets down in that third period, outside of a couple, like one or two boneheaded moves when Ehlers ends up wide open all by himself with a bad turnover. That's pretty bad. But for the most part, the Colorado Avalanche found the defensive game that the Winnipeg Jets were looking for. And I guess before we go to the second line, Ken, I wanted to go there and give me an idea of what you see from a Colorado Avalanche team that is not supposed to be able to get that defensive, who I thought were in trouble when their head coach said, if we're going to win this series, we need to get down to a defensive game. And I thought, good luck matching the Winnipeg Jets in a defensive game. I saw them go out and do that tonight. What did you see?
Yeah, I thought they were much more structured, for sure. Or no, I mean, they were pretty strong defensively in game one. I liked their game a little bit better. Obviously, defensive game, I don't think they gave up a ton. I thought that, button down style, no, but I saw a lot of effort. And Sean, the biggest thing for me that it was different from games 1 and 2, I thought the back pressure from the Avalanche made life difficult on the Jets, is what I really saw all over the ice. And I think, puck hounding, that's a great one here, here.
Indication.
Sorry, you take it. There was not enough puck hounding by the Jets. There was some. Kyle Connor, one of the people I certainly noticed in the back pressure game. But I really noticed, I mean, again, Sean, and this is a guy that we watched so closely in that 2022 run. Val Nichushkin has just been an absolute horse in this series. I don't care about the empty net goal, but his effort throughout this first two games, exceptional for me. And he leads the way in that terms of that back pressure. But you saw it from everybody. You saw it from Miles Wood. You saw it from Ross Colton. You saw it from Nathan McKinnon. You see it from Arturi Lehkonen, who looks like the Arturi Lehkonen that, again, was a overtime series-ending machine for the Avalanche that year. So to me, I just thought the Avalanche elevated, and the Jets didn't get enough. I mean, again, I don't think they had a ton of guys that played poorly, but I do think they had a couple guys that were not good enough in the game and got outplayed by the guys across from them. And that is also a recipe for trouble if you're playing against a team that, starts feeling a little bit confident. And again, this is not no one's taken away anything from the Jets finding a way with that 7-6 win. But if I had told you going into the series, or told Nathan McKinnon that the Avalanche were going to put up 6 in the opener against Hellybuck, no one would have thought they were going to lose the game. So for them to put up 10 goals in 2 games, they got to be feeling good about themselves. Alexander Georgiev sort of quieted some of the concerns between the pipes. But now it's about the Jets' ability to respond. And I love Mark Scheifele's answer to your question, Son. Don't you agree? I thought he was very calm. You asked, he talked about roller coasters going into the playoffs, staying calm. Mark answered the question the way he almost always does. And, he said they didn't expect a short series. Nobody did. No. Again, so now it's about making the adjustments and improving. I mean, I thought that line, again, I understand they had some tough shifts and got hemmed in a few times. The Jets' top line is not holding them back. They are playing well. They are producing offense. They're getting more than they're giving up for my money. Some of the analytics may not agree, but I've liked the way that line's played. I think Kyle Connor is playing his best defensive hockey of the season. I love the engagement of Gabriel Velarde. I love that he's getting into it physically with a guy like Josh Manson, who is a physical force. But the Jets need to elevate their game offensively. Yeah, and I understand they scored 7 in the opener. I didn't think they generated enough today to make life difficult on Alexander Georgiev. And Sean, you're right. Let's dig into that second line right now. To me,
just before we do that, Leah Party said Avs are peaking. We've dipped. Things should balance out. You should know Rick Bowness, I believe, thought the Winnipeg Jets were better in this game than they were in the first game. Keep in mind, I think Rick Bowness, and I talked about it off the top of this, you may think the Jets won this game and then won the first game and then lost the second game, and that the Jets got worse in this game. I think the understanding is how they played their systems. The belief is that the Jets got better. Again, 4.36 or something like that goals above expected by Alexander Georgiev in that first game would suggest that game, a lot of people would expect the first game of that series should have been 6-3, 6-2. So I know the result was better last game, but I think if you're trying to say we've dipped, I don't know what you're referring to, unless you're referring to from how they ended the season, because I think the belief in the Jets room is they actually got better on this night tonight. Okay, let's get to that second line before we get going. Let's just go away and say, like, the Winnipeg Jets need them to get their offense anyways to get the pristine roofing wake-up call. You know what that means. Time to give North End Rick the pristine roofing wake-up call at 1-204-981-6289, or give pristine roofing a call at 1-204-237-7663 for all your roofing, siding, and exterior needs. Don't forget, they're giving away a free roof this year with their Pay It Forward program. So if you know someone who needs that and can't afford it, get a hold of Pristine Roofing, and they may be the people who benefit from the generosity of the fine folks at Pristine Roofing. Get to the second line here. Ken, I touched on it at the beginning, but where are we at with that line? Because I actually think they took a step back this game in their defensive play. And boy, oh boy, in a series, and I know they won, and it doesn't sound like it because the first game, the Jets scored 7 goals, but I think the Jets could really use them awakening and becoming more of a threat to score than they have been.
Agreed. And I agree. I actually, I'm with you. I quite liked their game in game one, and you explained it perfectly when you were asking, Tyler Toffoli about it and Rick Bowness. They were the calm around the chaotic storm that was happening in game one. No, they didn't score, but they also were never in danger of being scored on, right? So in a game where people were buzzing around and there seemed to be chances every single shift, they weren't giving things up. And in this game, again, I understand the analytics will say their line, was fine and steady, scoring chances 4-6-5 against, high danger, 3-2 against at 5-on-5. I didn't like their game. I didn't think there was cohesion in their game today. We've seen plenty of chemistry with Ehlers and Monahan. Again, they got some opportunities. 4 shots on goal for Ehlers, 4 for Monahan, 1 for Toffoli. I did look at the analytics, and I understand, but I don't see them getting hemmed in and giving up grade A's all over the ice, which is what some people see. And I'm not seeing that for the first line. Second line, they were on the ice for a critical goal against. Again, and I'm not pinning this on Nikolai Ehlers. Tough break, kind of, lost an edge and fell down. I mean, I don't personally know. Some people were asking, is that a tripping minor on Arturi Lehkonen? Not for me, Sean. That's not tripping. I think Ehlers lost his balance and fell. He did his best to try to keep the puck and get it deep, but he needed to get the puck deep before he fell down. And with, fewer than 10 seconds left in the period, that's a play that can't happen. That puck's got to be, and again, I'm not laying it on Ehlers, but puck protection in that situation, if that puck gets behind the net, there's no scoring chance against. Now, again, Colorado, nice job by Lehkonen to find the puck. McKinnon finds it. Manson does a nice job of getting behind him. I would say this. I know that, Rick Bowness was asked about it. I think there needed to be better communication on that play, Sean. There's got to be stick tapping or banging or someone on the bench saying, hey, 5 seconds. But I don't think that, I wouldn't say that the defensemen were caught asleep on the play, but someone has to alert them that a guy is coming out of the box. Don't you think?
I think that this is a perfect storm. And like Rick Bowness said, bad luck. I don't know that you defend that play, right? Because as with the amount of time that's left on the clock, with Nikolai Ehlers where he is, you have to hold the zone, right? You have to be there to provide him support just in case he tries to push the puck back to the other side. This is literally, the timing of this can't be worse. And someone on here, and let's see if I can find it here. But someone had said something. Okay. Jets were better tonight. Helly was hot garbage, and Velarde made an amateur error by not taking the man coming out of the box. This has nothing to do with Velarde not taking the man coming out of the box. This is the long change, which means there's an advantage coming out of the box by Josh Manson because he's got like a 10-foot head start on him. And the timing of this is Nathan MacKinnon turns up ice. Both those players come out, and it's like Velarde has to try and catch Josh Manson, who gets caught, gets the puck in stride, like you'd said. Great play by Nathan MacKinnon, and there it goes. This literally is timing that I don't think, Ken, you could give a heads up to the defenseman as much as you did. Maybe, Ken, there's an argument to be made that the defense needed to be better notified so they could maybe try and challenge and cut off the pass before it goes
D-man is
up
what I think.
ice.
Yes.
Right? To go all in and try and stop it. Maybe, but even if the bench gives him a heads up, I don't know that that's how he responds. I think he turns around and tries to skate backwards. So I honestly think this is truly a bad luck play. This, to me, if you're looking for something, this is one of those times where it's like, if you're going to go back to the old Connor Hellybuck making the right save at the right time, this is where that save needed to happen. Same as Alexander Georgiev last game, where Adam Lowry comes down and puts it in that triangle that Jake Allen did such a good job of talking about. If he makes that save, maybe it's a different game. To me, this is just one of these. I mean, you know that Rick Bowness is upset that Nikolai Ehlers turned over the puck here, right? So if he doesn't turn over the puck, there's not this problem. But if he does turn over the puck in almost any other scenario, it's probably not that big of a problem either. It just so happened it came at the perfect time where just by where the benches sit, the Colorado Avalanche have an advantage that the Winnipeg Jets don't have, and boom, it's in the back of the net. This is a little bit of a bad luck. I talked all about the hockey gods loving the Winnipeg Jets this year. This is one of those situations where the hockey gods maybe turned their back on the Winnipeg Jets. But I don't. This is not something that I pin on any specific player. If you're looking for someone who is most at fault here, it's probably Ehlers for turning over the puck. I don't think it's egregious.
No, fair. And I agree. And I agree with you wholeheartedly. Josh Morrissey has to hold the line on the left side D. To me, the weak side D can pull into the neutral zone, which may have prevented the clear lane in that situation.
Yes.
So, but again, it's Sandberg on his offside, which, yes, I understand he's playing on the third pairing right now, but he's not out there with Morrissey very often. Again, I'm not blaming either player for miscommunication, but that's where I want to have, I want someone to be alerting the bench so that maybe that offside D, if he's in the neutral zone, then it's not at least a clean direct pass from MacKinnon to Manson. But yeah, I mean, hey, Josh Manson buried his chance. I mean, he said it himself. He doesn't get a lot of breakaways. He got one. And again, Sean, we talk about accountability all the time. I love that Josh Manson was openly talking about how, he had a good offensive game in game one. He wasn't good defensively. This guy's been in the league as a good defensive player, physical force. He was one today.
He was bad in game one,
but he
was
didn't have
maybe
a good
their
game.
worst defenseman. Yeah.
And he was openly out there saying, hey, I need to make a couple better plays there. So I love that accountability. He's ready, and he delivered for his team. Again, sorry, we're going back to the I just think that the Jets' second line needs to give more, Sean, just to finish up that thought. Again, I'm not blaming Ehlers, but that's a play that, in that time of game, in a one goal, in that type of one goal game at the time, that puck, it's not in danger. The Jets have possession of the puck with less than 10 seconds to go in the period. You shouldn't be getting scored on, is my point. I'm not laying blame on anyone in particular, but that's a situation. You talk about time of game and situational awareness. You can't be giving up a goal when you have possession of the puck with fewer than 10 seconds to go in a period. Now, if it's off an icing or what, no, you can't. You don't agree? I understand it's a perfect storm. I'm just saying.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I don't think it's egregious. As a rule of thumb, can you not be giving up goals with less than 10 seconds left? Of course. We saw the Colorado
But not
Avalanche.
When you have possession of the puck, though, is my point. I mean, if it's a neutral zone player, a face-off in their zone, but when you have possession,
he falls.
Like,
right, it's not like he did it on purpose.
Effort.
He didn't throw the puck away. He didn't turn around and blindly put it on someone's stick. He falls. And then I think what people are thinking the problem is that he doesn't grab the puck in that moment and just throw it down the boards.
Well, he tried to.
And exactly. I think he tried to. I think some people were thinking that he was trying to put it under his legs and get it on the other side of his body. And maybe he could just hold it there. And maybe that's what he tried to do. But I just think that this is like a bad luck scenario. If I'm going to call out the second line, I think it's that I don't see enough urgency in their offense and their ability to create the chaos that you're looking for from that line down the stretch here. They need to join this series offensively because, again, we're talking about the first line of the Colorado Avalanche. And hey, they went nuclear option tonight, Ken.
For sure,
right?
They did.
Like, they went out and they went Rantanen, Nichushkin, and Nathan McKinnon.
Yeah.
Which is, like we talked about in that Oilers series a couple of years back. We talked about it on this show. If you can get the Oilers to go nuclear option and put Draisaitl and Connor McDavid on the same line, then you've just alleviated your worries on so many other lines. They did that tonight. And then so that is your time. Whereas if you're going to throw the three most dangerous threats that the Colorado Avalanche have on one single line, and you've got a line like Adam Lowry's that can snuff them out for a good chunk of the game, or try and send out the fourth line, then what it means is it opens up an opportunity for you to capitalize on the second, third, and fourth lines of the Colorado Avalanche. And the Jets' second line is not doing that. And to be honest, they don't look dangerous at all. It didn't look like it was close on this night here tonight. They looked like they got outplayed, or at least were unable to generate. And until they do, the blueprint that should favor the Jets' depth is not going to work. And you're going to have to rely on winning games by having a terrible performance by the team's opposition goaltender like they did.
Sure. And just quickly, Tyler Toffoli has to get going. It's simple. This guy was he's a 30-plus goal scorer. He was brought in for his championship pedigree, and he wasn't dangerous today. I understand he only had 13 minutes, but Toffoli has not been dangerous and as dangerous as he needs to be, Sean. One shot on goal today, one attempt. I see him playing hard. I see him trying to get involved physically, but he hasn't been, as dangerous as he needs to be. And we talked about it going into the series, Sean. Jets have a clear-cut advantage at number 2 center with Sean Monahan versus Casey Middlestad. Right now, and again, extra attacker goal, I don't count that against them in the battle, but right now that second line hasn't been, it should be dominating, might be a strong word, but they need to be better, significantly better than the second line. And Sean, the reason why the Avalanche went nuclear is because Nichushkin's been their best player probably outside of Makar, and Rantanen hasn't been going. So Rantanen hasn't been going at all.
Has not checked into this series. I mean,
he's trying. He's involved physically, but he's not involved offensively.
It sure is interesting because what we're talking about here is, you don't have, and I'm not the I'm not the biggest believer in Jonathan Drouin, and you're talking about a team that, and I think Bednar poured water on the idea of Landeskog coming back at all in the playoffs this year. There was a lot of talk that he may be available in May. I take that as like, if there's anyone worried about Gabriel Landeskog checking in at the tail end of this series, I don't think it's happening. Drouin is out for this series as well. Not the biggest believer in his, but that's a little bit of a depth piece that could be in this lineup here. But the Colorado Avalanche are doing what they're doing without Mikko Rantanen, who is undisputedly over the last number of years one of the top 10 offensive threats in the NHL. He's yet to check into this series. So for all the, the Jets still have this to come, they've got that to come, they've got the second line to come. One of the most capable players offensively in this series, someone who has shown consistently that they are more capable than any offensive threat on the Winnipeg Jets team, has yet to check into this series. And it's being hidden by the fact that a guy like, you're getting goals from the lower lines of the Colorado Avalanche, but also the fact that Artturi Lehkonen has been absolutely phenomenal in this series. What a playoff performer. What brilliance coming from him. Hey, before we move on, I want you to give Sweet Lou a shout out.
You bet. For folks who have realty needs you'd like to have met, contact our main man, Lou Ferlin at Royal LePage Dynamic Realty. Tell him Kenny and Renny sent you. 204-791-9971 or at the office, 204-989-5000. His email is lou@louferlin.ca. That's LOU@LOUFURLAN.ca. Lou Ferlin, excellent human being, excellent realtor, and excellent supporter of this community, including our podcast here, for which we are grateful.
I should give a shout out to Cambrian Credit Union and their undo.
Good looking logo.
Erase your debt faster. Get our payoff loan. Hey, if you are looking to pay off high interest credit cards or debt, we suggest you go talk to our friends at Cambrian Credit Union about their payoff loan. They can show you how taking out a loan to pay off your debt actually gets you debt free faster, and you can save thousands of dollars. Go to cambrian.mb.ca to book an appointment online. I think the obvious undo candidate on this game would be Connor Hellybuck, handling the puck the way that he did to turn over that goal. Let's get to, I want to break down the goals a little bit, because we just did with that, with the Josh Manson goal. I want you to go through the goals that were scored by the Colorado Avalanche tonight. Get into the Hellybuck goal. I think that one's pretty self-explanatory. He turns it over and it ends up in the back of the net. Artturi Lehkonen, give me an idea what you saw from that goal and the other goal that happened on this night, not including the empty netter.
Sure. I mean, after Gustafsson scored on the rebound, Sean, Miles Wood, Ross Colton just wins the draw cleanly, and Wood beats Connor Hellybuck with a shot that it looked to me that Logan Stanley was clearly screening him. I don't think he saw it. Next one,
I just don't think that he's set for that. Right. I don't think he's set for the shot. He's not expecting it. Again, this is one of those ones that went through Connor Hellybuck. Right. And I think we saw a lot of goals on Alexander Georgiev that it's just poor positioning or not being ready. Like, I think it was you who said you didn't like the goal that Adam Lowry scored. I know we got a great explanation by Jake Allen in the intermission on why that's a really good goal that Lowry scored. But I think you believe that the stick needed to be there. The pad needed to be on the ice. This is one of those ones where it almost looks to me, and someone said it earlier on in the chat, it almost looks like Helly's not ready for that shot. It goes right through him. His stick's not on the ice. I think if you're looking for points in that game where Connor Hellybuck can be better, that's clearly one of those points. Moving on to the next goal, Ken.
Yeah, I mean, Lehkonen, perfect redirection on the shot by Makar from the point at 14:16 of the second period. Really smart play. Lehkonen doing what he does, getting to the net. Good job all around by him. Zach Parise's goal is just a simple miscue. Communication problem between the D and the goaltender. Hellybuck needed to move it quicker, but he also should have had a better outlet pass available to him. Yakov Trenin, he's got to get an assist there, right? He clearly lifted Hellybuck's stick, and the puck went to Cogliano. So I don't know how it couldn't have hit him. Anyways, that's neither here nor there. And then the Manson goal is, like we said, 4-on-4, coincidental minors for roughing. Heads up play by, Lehkonen to find the puck after Ehlers blew an edge. And McKinnon found him for the breakaway. And then Nichushkin spinorama backhander into the empty netter. And some people were saying, somebody sent me a note saying Morrissey played it poorly on the empty netter? Come on.
Give me a break.
There's no way you anticipate the turnaround, spin around the backhand.
The only thing he gave him was a blind no-look spin-a-rama backhand. Josh Morrissey plays that brilliantly. Give a guy his flowers when he deserves it, and Nichushkin pulled off a stupid, skilled play in that case. Give him credit for that. I wanted to touch on this. And I think the Colorado Avalanche, this is something that they deserve a ton of credit for in this game and also in this series. So the beginning of that game, you talked about how good Connor Hellybuck looked. I couldn't agree with you more. Ken, I don't know if I want to say I got exposed, but I put out a tweet early in that first period that said it looks like Connor Hellybuck is going to have himself a night. One of the reasons was because he was doing that big and boring thing. And I'll tell you this, the kind of offense that the Colorado Avalanche tried to start that game with was a guy in tight right on top of Hellybuck trying to redirect the puck and then create chaos and then slapping the rebound in on the short side. And what they found time and time again is Connor Hellybuck is not very susceptible to in tight redirections because of the big and boring style. And he's so good at sealing the post. So you'll have seen this happen time and time again. Shot from the point, hits Hellybuck, sits there. The Avs player picks it up, tries to jam it on the post. Connor Hellybuck beats him to the post. It doesn't happen. So the Avs would try just throwing it directly off the backboards to the side of the net and try and tap in. And Connor Hellybuck beats them to that post. So what do? They switch up the kind of offense that they're going for, right? They get that goal off the screen, off the shot. The Cale Makar, it's like, okay, let's get that player out a little bit higher and let's have a moving screen. So what you see Lettinen doing in that case is he's moving from right to left, moves across his eyes. Makar moving across the ice, which makes it hard to decipher where he's shooting the puck from, releases the puck so Connor Hellybuck can't possibly know where the release point is coming from. And then you see Lettinen turns his body and positions it in a place where if it goes off him, it's going to be a fence that redirects towards the net, and suddenly it's in the back of the net. There you go. They changed up their style of offense. They went and they saw what Connor Hellybuck was doing well, and they stopped trying to score like that. They said, okay, let's switch up and let's try to score other ways. I think this was a stark contrast to the Winnipeg Jets, who did not make life tough on Alexander Georgiev on this night. And Rick Bowness said something about them not shooting enough. I couldn't agree more. They got away from that shooting mindset. And this is one of the things that I've talked about in the past. I've said this about the Winnipeg Jets. I think sometimes when they have offensive explosions like the one we saw from them the last game, it can potentially hurt them. Because the Jets, I think when that happens, get into this, we're going to pass the puck into the back of the net mentality that you saw from them last game, and boom, pass to the slot, it's in the back of the net. Boom, Gabe Vilardi comes up from behind the net, cross the crease, tap in by Mark Scheifele, and they get used to that, and then they go looking for that. And they look for it, and they look for it. And as they're looking for it and it doesn't materialize, they hold on to the puck and they never get it to the front of the net. And this is the kind of offensive explosions that we've talked about. You go back to that 5-game losing streak they had earlier in the season, where they kicked the pants off the Anaheim Ducks, and then they kicked the pants off the Columbus Blue Jackets, and then went out the next game and got 40 whatever shots put up against Connor Hellybuck, but pull off that win against the Rangers. And then it all falls apart and suddenly they can't score. Well, it's because of this mindset. When the Jets fall, when everything goes good and everything goes their way, and suddenly they think, let's pass it in the back of the net, boys, they get away from what have I talked about has been so many of my TCB lamplighters over the course of the season, Ken, is those repeatable goals that are blind shots from the point. Josh Morrissey had one of them last game, but the Jets had also a lot of fancy goals that I think they kind of fell in love with. When the Jets fall into that trap, it takes them a while to get out of that trap, which is why we saw a 5-game losing streak and a 6-game losing streak. The Winnipeg Jets offense didn't really materialize tonight because they were looking for success that looked like that. They get it in the Mark Scheifele goal, which is no doubt a gorgeous goal. But if the Winnipeg Jets don't get back to trying to create that hard-nosed, honest offense, the 2-on-1s for Adam Lowry, they're not going to happen. Just allowing someone to skate to the front of the net, that's not going to happen as this series goes on. Finding Kyle Connor and him popping it in the front of the net, that's not going to continue on. And Josh Manson, who admitted he had a bad game, him allowing Mark Scheifele to just redirect the puck in the front of the net, that's not going to happen anymore. The Winnipeg Jets need to get those shots. They need to get greasy. They need to get dirty. It's taken them far too long in the past to adjust their mindset to get back to scoring the right kind of goals. They need to get to it and get to it fast because they don't have time for a 5-game losing streak in this series. They don't have time for a 3-game losing streak. And honestly, they don't have time to give away 1 or 2 games to that mindset, whether it's a losing streak or not. They need to get back to grinding and generating the right kind of offense, which I didn't see from them tonight. And I did see it from the Colorado Avalanche, both in this game and last game.
Yeah, I mean, I would say the one thing with the Jets, it looked to me like Nino Niederreiter had a little bit more jump. We know we've been talking about him trying to come back from an injury. And for me, Niederreiter needs to lead the brigade in terms of the grinders kind of goals.
Great.
I mean, the fourth line has been providing that for the Jets. First with the Alex Iafallo forcing the Manson turnover in game 1 for the slapper from the slot. And today, Jets crashing the net, and there's the puck laying there for David Gustafsson for his first career NHL Stanley Cup playoff goal. But the third line, I thought they had some good shifts. I thought there was a great chance early. They had a great cycle shift, and Mason Appleton had a good chance, but he ripped it wide. And I thought that Niederreiter was moving a little bit better, Sean, but just a big disparity in ice time. And I know some of it's power play related, but Nino Niederreiter just 11-11 in the game. Adam Lowry 13-22. 2 shots on net for Lowry, 3 attempts, 5 hits. I like Lowry's line. I mean, they did another good job of, according to Natural Stat Trick, the shots, shots for, shots against for that line were 5-4. And that's a good night. That's a good night for that line. High dangers, scoring chance 3-1 against, high danger chances 2-1. I mean, I'm telling you right now, in the matchup game, you will take that. And Rick Bowness went out of his way, Sean, to talk about it, right?
Yeah.
The Lowry line is doing its job against McKinnon.
Yeah.
And they have. But there's other guys who need to get going. And I think that those guys will be ready to go in game 3. I mean, one quick one here. Waiters has a good question. Does the extra day off help Winnipeg or Colorado more, do you think?
Oh God, I think it helps. Hey, if I haven't made this clear, the Winnipeg Jets were the worst team in both of these games. They win the first game because of a terrible performance by Alexander Georgiev. The Colorado Avalanche said at the beginning of this series, they need to get to a more defensive style. They found it on this night. They didn't have it in game 1. So I think both teams got better in this series, but defensively, the Colorado Avalanche got way better. The Winnipeg Jets are not anywhere near what we know they can be defensively. So there's 2 teams here. And as far as where they like their game, I think the Colorado Avalanche have found the ability to score and they found the ability to defend. I think for them to succeed in this series, they have found the game that they need to bring if they are going to have success in this series. The Winnipeg Jets have not. So it is undoubted in my mind that the Winnipeg Jets having 2 games off here vastly favors them because they need to get to the right kind of game that they haven't achieved. And I can't get into it because we don't have a lot of time. There were a lot of adjustments I saw in this game tonight that you could clearly see the thumbprints of the Avs coaches all over that game. I haven't seen that. We need to see one of these thumbprint games where the coaches went out and said, this has been a problem. This is how we fix it. That's what they've got the next 2 days to do. And I just need to bring this up here. NLCC says we need to go to LB in game 3. Give this up, people. This is not happening. There's no way the Winnipeg Jets are going to go away from their starting goaltender who they've leaned on, who is going to win a Vezina Trophy this season, who they've got locked up now for another 8 seasons, for a goaltender who has probably played his last minutes in the crease for the Winnipeg Jets and will be moving on next year. That would be have disastrous long-term effects. You go with the gal that took you to the dance. That's what they're going going to be doing with Connor Hellybuck. Ken, we got to get to it because we're running out of time. And I got a flight to catch in the morning. So if you got something to say it quick because we need to move on.
Would you make any lineup changes in game 3 if you're Rick Bowness?
I'm going to tell you right now, Logan Stanley, I know that he brought a little bit of that toughness. I know they want that, but this is too disciplined of a series for him to really put an impact on the game by chasing guys around for big hits or kind of roughhousing and knocking guys around. There were far too many times today that he basically blindly turned around and fired the puck to a spot that ended up being a turnover. The Winnipeg Jets cannot afford to lose the turnover battle in this series. They cannot afford to be giving away possession. Logan Stanley did it far too often. I think with the speed that we're seeing in this series, it's time to check Nate Schmidt back into this series and see the defensive stalwarts that he and Sandberg have been at various points of this season. I think you need to see that again.
Yeah, and I would also say too, I think that Dylan Sandberg got a couple great blocks on that penalty kill, especially, but I think he's trying his best on that offside, but it's pretty clear that he is more comfortable on the left side than the right side right now, and I think that would also kind of bode well for Nate Schmidt potentially checking in here. Up front, I don't see any changes. I mean, yeah, you could say if the Jets hadn't scored 9 goals in 2 games, I know you could make the argument for Perfetti, but David Gustafson's doing a really good job in that fourth line.
God,
so
yeah.
I don't think you make a
change.
Are
you crazy?
On that line right now.
He's one of the best performing Jets when he's on the ice. Taking him,
and I love that Rick Bowness used him on the penalty kill today. That's always been a specialty of his.
No doubt. Okay, Johnson Group got you covered. Play of the game. What do you got?
There was a great play. Nino. I texted you. Nino Niederreiter just made an awesome job, breaking up a really good play, back check, really good hustle, full on dive to break up a potential backdoor tap, essentially. And to me, that was a good sign. When Nino's going physically and when he's got his legs moving, he can really be a force. And again, I saw him more disruptive on the forecheck, but I love that back check play, Sean, and that's why I have it as my Johnson Group got you covered play of the game.
When Nino Niederreiter conducts himself as though every play on the ice is a live or die play like he did in that situation, that's Nino Niederreiter at his best, which is a good sign for a guy who spent some time out of the lineup. So no doubt, I agree with you. That's the Johnson Group got you covered play of the game there, Ken, the Johnson Group, the Kenny and Renny OGs. And hey, do you run a small business in Canada? Look to Canada's #1 employee benefits plan, Chambers Plan, to give you a competitive edge. Chambers Plan is the simple, stable, smart choice for over 30,000 businesses countrywide. Visit chamberplan.ca to learn more. Ken, moving on to the keg save of the game. What do you got?
That's a great question. I don't have a ton. I know that in the first period, there were a couple of really good rebound chances that Connor Hellybuck made saves on, but
I'm just going to jump in here.
Why don't you go
to Alexander Georgiev, the save that he makes on Nikolai Ehlers. That is a crucial point. And honestly, it's one of those scenarios by which if you're a player and you're playing a team that played as tightly defensively as the Colorado Avalanche did in that third period, and there is that bad of a breakdown and you get the puck wide open, just you and the goaltender, that needed to go in if the Winnipeg Jets were going to have a chance of coming back in this game. The way the Colorado Avalanche were playing, I still think they probably pull it out because I thought they played the extra man extremely well. But if the Jets were going to have a chance, they needed that. So Alexander Georgiev, hey, you got to give him the Renny stat on this night. He was the better goalie of the 2 goalies on this night. And that, to me, is the keg save of the game. So he wins that award as well. Probably going to burn some of you people because you like to see those awards go to the Jets. But if it does burn you, then there's one thing you can do. You can share with us your hashtag keg save of the game. And you do so, you'll automatically be entered to win a $50 gift certificate usable at any of the 3 fine keg locations here in the city of Winnipeg, each location finer than the last. And the winner from our last show, that would be Russ Lowen. Russ Lowen, I know he's won things in years past. I don't know that he's won that this year, or maybe he did at the beginning of the year. I'm not sure, but Russ Lowen, you know what to do. Direct message me at SN Sean Reynolds. Send me your full name, send me your email, and I will send you or have the fine folks at the keg send you a $50 gift certificate usable at any of the 3 fine keg locations here in the city of Winnipeg, each location finer than the last. And that brings us to the lamplighter of the game. What do you got, Ken?
Yeah, I mean, I love the Gustafson goal because of the work that he put in to get to that point. But, prettiest play of the night is Velarde's pass. And we talk about Mark Scheifele's intelligence a lot. And, the fact that, I had an idea of what was going through his mind, but I wanted to hear him say it out loud, Sean. And I love his explanation when I asked him about the play in question. I mean, if he tries to go to the back post with two hands on his stick, Jack Johnson just either takes a penalty against him or leans on him and guides him into the corner. Instead, he kind of got him with a sleight of hand there, didn't really show anything except there was eye contact with Velarde and Scheifele, and the nonverbal communication told Velarde to pass it to an area, and Mark makes an exceptional play to get his left hand out with one hand and found a way to get enough of the puck to redirect it past Georgiev to, put the Jets up 2-1 at the time. To me, it was just an exceptionally smart play. Building went nuts, but the Jets didn't build on the momentum after there. But that's not what the award is for. The award is for best goal of the game, and to me, that was the prettiest goal of the game. Most important goal of the game is the Manson, insurance marker. But to me, the pass by Velarde, great vision, and also the play by Kyle Connor, Sean, to be getting that puck into an odd man rush situation was an alert play as well. But incredible finish by Scheifele, and that's why I'm going with that as my lamplighter.
Well, what I love about that is it's a highly, highly skilled play, which is usually not what I go for in these cases. But to me, that's just a determination play, right?
Exactly.
That's beating a guy to a spot and only being able to get a little bit of yourself to that spot. That is just a guy who wants it so bad. He is going to make that goal happen. Mark Scheifele willed that puck into the back of the net, and it was gorgeous in the process. You always say it, Ken, and it's a great line. If you don't have the stick, you don't have the man. And Jack Johnson did not have the man because he did not have the stick. That's why it's in the back of the net. And that's why it is our TCB lamplighter of the game. It doesn't matter what we think, though. It matters what you think. Share with us your TCB lamplighter of the game. You're automatically entered to win a frosty, delicious 8-pack of Lamplighter Amber Ale, brought to you by our friends at TransCanada Brewing Company. If you can't wait for Kenny and Renny to gift you your own 8-pack, head on down to TransCanada Brewing Company, where they've got lots of them in the store there. Also, lots of great beers on tap, great food, great pizza. Head on down there. We tried to do that today and take Eric Engels down there, Ken. We forgot they're closed on Tuesday. Man, did we bone that up. Regardless,
it was the thought that counts. That was the thought that counts.
Thought that counts. And you know what? That's where we're going to have the Kenny and Renny year-ender, where we send her around into someone who asked me about it on the elevator. I said, yes, of course, we're going to send her. Stay tuned for that, folks, because that's going to be the biggest sports media party in the city, as it was last year. We're going to do it all over again. Ken, anything to say before we go?
Yeah, have an awesome time. I'll be watching with interest from home, and we'll be doing some fun shows here. And I expect this to be a great series as it moves along to Denver. Great barn, great atmosphere, and again, great job by the folks in our community for attracting interest not only locally but nationally and internationally. Lots of folks talking about the buzz, and including PK Subban, who those games he referenced as a member of the Hamilton Bulldogs, I was here covering as well. So I mean, a great job, great atmosphere inside and out. And hey, we always talk about this, and fans don't always agree, Sean, but every season, every series needs some tension, and the tension has arrived for the Winnipeg Jets, and it's their turn to show what they're made of and see what happens as the series shifts to a Ball Arena. I can't wait for it.
Just before I go, I'm going to say this. 73 Ambassador says, Renny, you still think the Avs are no match for the Jets, and you still confident the Jets will take the series in 5? I don't change my predictions, because then I would just be a punk, right? If I change my prediction now and they win it in 5, it would mean I have no conviction. So I'm still going with this because I've said it as I did at the top end of the show. Now, one of the things that has definitely changed here is I've seen a side of the Avs I didn't see a lot of this year. The Avs definitely have a playoff pedigree, a championship pedigree that has shown up here that I'm quite impressed with. Their fight, and of course, Jared Bednar, the way he handles it. You can just see a coach that is going to get the most out of his team. But I say this, and I'll end with this: the blueprint for the Winnipeg Jets to win this series with depth is sitting there waiting for them to take it. The question for me is not what the Colorado Avalanche are bringing. The question for me is far more so the Winnipeg Jets Jets and whether or not they are going to step up and utilize the tools they have to lean on their depth and win this series. They do that, I think they win their next 3 games. So I'm not backing down on the 5. But clearly, the Winnipeg Jets better use these next 2 days well, because they've got a long way to go to do that. I'll say it. I said it at the beginning. I'm going to say it again. The Winnipeg Jets have far and away been the second best team in this series. You should be considering yourselves lucky as Jets fans that is a 1-1 series, because it took an atrocious performance by Alexander Georgiev in the first game 1 of this series to put them in a position to be 1-1 right now. So take the win and see if you can't get to where you need to be over the next 3 games, and make Renny right with his series done in 5 prediction. Done in 5 for the Winnipeg Jets. That's it for me. That's it for Ken. Great job, Ken. Great job, chat room. Thank you for showing up this late. It always humbles us when you do that. So thank you so much for doing that. And as I will say, as I always do, if you appreciate the conversation happening in this space, I want you to please, please appreciate and support our sponsors who fight to keep the conversation going in this space for us. That's Vittorio Rossi, Pristine Roofing, Cambrian Credit Union, Sweet Lou Furlan, the Johnston Group, the Keg, and TransCanada Brewing Company. Thank you to them. Thank you to all of you. I will see you next time from Denver. Early plane tomorrow. Ken, you're going to hold it down here and join me in game 6 should my prediction be wrong. Thanks so much, everybody. We will talk to you after the game. Big game 3 coming up on Friday. Bye-bye.